Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? No? Oh, there we go. Now can you hear me okay? That's better? All right. Hope everyone is having a good day. I hope, it's March spring weather. It like snows one day and it's 78 the next, so there you go. The point of this session is to do a few different things. So first, we want to orient you toward graduation requirements, or if you've looked at them before, to remind you of what they are, so you have those in mind as you engage in building your course schedule for next year. And one thing that we do here at Utah is we have you build your whole course schedule for the year. That doesn't mean you're locked in. You have flexibility to move things around. I've seen you all move things around. It happens like all summer. For the spring, it happens all fall. But you do want to select things sort of out of the gate. So the first point is just to walk through the graduation requirements. The second is I'm going to give you some advice, and you have paid me nothing for it, so you can decide how much it's worth. But it is based on sort of my perspective, having been the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs for about 5 years, having taught for about 12, and having been out of law school for almost 20 now. So it's my own perspective. I think it aligns fairly well with Dean Dickey's perspective, and she knows that she's always free to chime in and tell me when and how I am wrong, which may be frequently. And then the third point is just to sort of walk you through sort of some of the pieces of the course schedule and how things fit together to kind of orient you toward what things look like in your second and third year and how that differs from the first year, because now we are about to unleash you into the pasture, right? There's the old Dixie Chicks song, Wide Open Spaces. You're right there, you're almost there. So that's sort of what I'm hoping to do. I'm gonna go pretty quickly, so we try to leave some time for questions. But if you have questions that are sort of burning along the way, just holler, raise your hand. I did make the mistake of leaving my glasses in my car today, so I can, you all right here, my friends, I can see you. You all back there, I can see that you are people. Someone raised their hand. Okay, all right. So you've already gotten a little bit of advising. I just wanted to point that out. We already talked a little bit about competitions and law review. The clinic session also will be there to talk about the clinical program. And of course, the clinical program in flux a bit, right? It's been a certain way for a long time under Professor Smith. She's done an amazing job at building that program up from the ground level. We do have a new professor coming in to run the program, Anna Carpenter, who is, I've spent a lot of time with her. She is amazing. You guys are really lucky to have her joining our faculty. Okay, so we're going to do graduation requirements and sort of curriculum overview today. I'm also going to send out another email, so watch for it. These slides will also be posted to the student resources part of the College of Law website, so you'll have access to them if you want. The email is also going to tell you when we're going to have next week drop-in hours if you want to meet with faculty members in a certain curricular area or practice area to talk to them about what your course schedule might look like. So we've arranged that, so they're all available. Dean Dickey and I are also available, and I've already talked to some students I know wanted to meet with me. I'm happy to meet with as many students as would like, so I'm trying to set aside a bunch of time next week to do that. Okay, so the basics in terms of our graduation requirements. We are currently at 88 credit hours. You're going to hear that that's going to change to 90, and it is, but it's not for you all, it's for the entering class. So to graduate, you need 88 credit hours. Which means that if you think through, and you know, I know law students love math, so you've done 30 years, or 30 credits this year, right? So that means there's 58 left, and if you divide that in two, that's like 29 a year, right? So it's about what you've done this year. Some people take summer classes, that's one way to, you know, minimize that, but you're looking at basically 14 to 15 credit hours per semester to graduate on time. Totally reasonable. Okay, you have to have a minimum GPA of 2.5. If you fall into the bottom 15% of the class, we're going to give you academic assistance. And this is to help you make sure that you can achieve your dreams and accomplish why you came here, right? So we have additional classes, if you fall into that category, that you'll need to take in your second and third year. Those are with Professor Heine. They're amazing classes. She's put together a terrific curriculum, and it really helps students. I'm actually teaching in one of them this evening to help the 3Ls getting ready for the bar exam, and Professor Heine is bringing in different people from different areas. So I'm doing some Civ Pro. I'm like, I get to do this right now, and I taught just a few minutes ago, and I'm teaching right after, and I'm teaching this evening. It's like awesome because, you know, it's the cherry on the cake, Civ Pro at the end of the day. Okay. You do have to be enrolled for at least 5 semesters to get your JD. So you're on your second, that means 3 more. And the semester credit hour limits are between 9 and 18, but don't forget about your scholarships. And of course, this also relates to what block tuition looks like. If you want to really enrich yourselves and read about our policies, the student handbook is on the website and you can look at the policies. I'm just giving you the overview. The language of the handbook is binding, not what I'm saying here. Okay, and then finally, Dean Dickey and Lena Shrewsbury, the registrar, together conduct the graduation reviews. And so they'll be assessing to make sure you've done everything. Okay, so those are the basic graduation requirements. I'm going to talk about a few more in a minute. Just keep in mind there are some limits about what you can and can't do. So the maximum number of ungraded credits you can take towards your JD are 18. Okay, so this might be things like law review, some moot court competitions, clinical placements, those types of things. You can elect to take one class that's not required for graduation, credit, no credit. That would also count toward the 18 credits. So students often sort of do this strategically. A lot of people save it for their last semester. I don't see these. They're like procedures about when you have to exercise it.
Last week of classes.
Last week of classes. And once you exercise it, it's gone. If you shoot the bullet out of the gun, you do not have that bullet anymore, and you only have one. So be careful about which werewolf you are hunting down. Okay, if you do this, you have to get a C- or better to receive credit. And I can tell you, be careful with that. I will tell you from my own personal experience. We got 3 of these when I was in law school, and I flirted with that line on my copyright class. And boy, was I glad to see that passing grade on my transcript. So, you know, just be careful. Okay, So this is what Dean Dickey just said. It's up to the last week of classes, but you can wait till the final week. And as I just said, once the bullet's fired, it's fired. No revoking it once you elect it. The maximum number of clinical credits you can have, so placements in a clinic or an externship. So your civil placement, your judicial placement is 14 credits. That's a whole semester. Most people don't get anywhere near this, but just so you know, that's what the limit is. You can also do directed research credits. I'll talk about what directed research looks like later, or maybe if people have a question I can ask about it. There's sort of two different tracks. You can get up to 6 credits total, and you can get up to 3 credits in any given semester. And these can be graded or ungraded depending on what you're doing. And then you also have a maximum that's sort of a sub-maximum in terms of the ungraded credits for being a TA for legal methods or ASP, moot court, student publications, that's law review, 12 credits. And you need, keep in mind, if you're going for order of the coif, you need 66 graded credits in our law school. Okay, in addition to the 1L classes you have taken, there are some further courses you must take in order to graduate as a 2L or a 3L. Okay, so the first is you must take Constitutional Law 2, and you're required to do it as a 2L. This year we're offering it 3 different times. So it's being offered in the summer with Professor Jones, it will be offered in the fall with Professor Roski, and it will be offered in the spring with Professor McCormick. So you've got 3 different options, but you, as a 2L, you do need to select one of those options to take it. You also need to take legal profession, which is the ethics course. A lot of students like to take this in their 2L year so that they can take the MPRE in the fall of their 3L year, or in the spring of their 2L year, just sort of get it out of the way. This fall, Professor Richards will be teaching it, and in the spring it will be an adjunct, possibly Judge Appleby, who's teaching it this semester right now. You also need to get 6 credits of experiential courses, and there's a list of what these look like. I'll give you sort of a short summary, but if you go to the student handbook, it has the full list of experiential courses. So you need 6 credits of that. Any clinical placement will count. A lot, but not all of the courses that go along with the clinical placements count. There's other things that count as well. Okay, the other thing you have to have is 2 upper level writing requirements. So the first and the most vigorous is the seminar writing requirement. This presumptively needs to be in a seminar, and a seminar is any class that is 7,800. So you'll see a variety of these offered in each semester. There's 1 in the summer, there's 4 or 5 in the fall, there's 4 or 5 in the spring. And you write a 7,000 word paper that is exclusive. That 7,000 words is exclusive, so it does not include your footnotes. So it's a scholarly paper about the law on a topic related to something you're interested in, and typically the seminar. There are some other courses where you can pick up a seminar paper where the professor is willing to let you do that in the class rather than as part of the seminar. But it is required that you get at least 1 round of sort of fulsome feedback from the professor on the paper and engage in a second draft. Yeah?
How many
only Common Law 1 has to happen in your 2L year. Or Common Law 2, sorry. That's the only one that has to happen in your 2L year. So you've got a lot of room to run. But I just want you to understand what the things are you have to check off the list before you get to May 2020, right? Because you don't want to get to May 2020 and be like, whoops, I got a problem. I will also tell you, I got to January 2000 and had an email from my registrar saying, could you come see me? And I had been, my wife and I decided to do this crazy thing. We took a month off because there was about a month in between, and we'd gone to Europe. And if you think back to 2000, you're going to see email occasionally, but not all the time, right? And so we'd spent all our money, had this great trip, came back, and I'm trying to figure out where to get more money so, in a few weeks we'll be able to continue eating, useful thing. And I also get this email from the registrar, and I go in and she says, you're short credits. And I was like, what do you mean? I counted them up. And she's like, well, you must be bad at math then. And apparently I was, because I was like 2 credits short. I had to pick up an extra class. So you don't want to get to May 2020 and be there, right? Okay. So you definitely don't need to cram this all into the 2 year. I just want you to know where the pieces are so you can arrange things in a way that fits for you to do the things you want with your JD. Okay. Okay, so I just mentioned the seminar writing requirement. It's got to be 7,000 words. That doesn't count citations or footnotes. You can sometimes do it in some of these other courses I mentioned as long as it matches up. You can theoretically do it through a directed research, but I will tell you, if you look at the student handbook policy, it's a very high bar to be able to do this through directed research, and I generally deny them. You have to seek permission from me, and what you have to show me is you couldn't have done it in any other seminar. So you have a hard time winning that argument. An adjunct also cannot supervise your seminar paper. It has to be a full-time member of our faculty. Okay, the other thing you have to do in addition to the seminar writing requirement is you have to do what's called the portfolio. This is the portfolio writing requirement. This is 3 additional things you have to write in addition to the seminar paper. So you can actually think of this as like 4 things you need to write. They have to be completed for academic credit. So if you go work over the summer at a law firm and write some big, appellate brief, that doesn't count. You worked for the law firm, they paid you. That's not academic. So the things that count include your law review note or comment, a transactional document. So if you take contract drafting, for instance, or some other kind of drafting course, if you take legislative process and you write a legislative bill, that would count. A litigation document, so if you take pretrial practice or maybe trial practice, depending on what you do, that might count. An appellate document, an appellate practice would count. A moot court brief would count. Or legal writing for clinical placements can count as well. What we're looking for is at least about 8 to 10 pages minimum of thorough legal analysis. It has to be legal in nature. Is that about right, Dean Dickey? Yeah.
I will be sending out an email with a list of classes that will automatically fulfill the portfolio requirements for the upcoming year. It's not something we put in the student handbook because faculty are always changing, course requirements are changing. A class fulfills the requirement one year, it may not the next year. So I will be sending that out sometime over the next couple of weeks, and you'll have an idea of which classes will automatically fulfill the portfolio. And I don't need an email from a faculty member for those. However, if you end up writing something in a class that isn't on that list, that's fine, but I will need an email from the faculty member. Does that make sense?
Okay, so now I'm going to give you my advice, free advice. We got to watch a movie. Oh no.
I'm just scared, the tournament and everything.
I have low sound. Now we have no sound.
You remember lesson about balance?
Lance, what do I do?
Yeah.
Lesson not just
I push buttons.
karate only.
Oh, Eve.
Lesson for whole life. Whole life.
All right, here we go.
At para.
I'm just scared,
Oh,
the
it's
tournament
not on
and
the
everything.
screen? Why did somebody tell me that?
You remember
Drag it up.
Drag it up.
The whole window.
Oh, the whole window.
Yeah.
Here, wait, I know, I think I got it. I know.
Second monitor over there. You have to just drag.
Oy vey. All right, hold on. Here. There we go.
End up getting?
Yeah.
at para.
I'm just scared, the tournament and everything. Just...
You remember lesson about balance?
Yeah.
A lesson not just karate only. Lesson for whole life. Whole life have a balance. Everything be better. Understand?
Yeah, I understand.
All right, so I don't know if you all have seen The Karate Kid. If you haven't, you got to go watch it. There's a scene earlier where, there's a couple scenes earlier, Mr. Miyagi's teaching Daniel karate, has him balance on a post, like by the ocean, like an old dock post, right? And he keeps falling off. Has him balance in the water, keeps falling off on a boat. And he tells him earlier, you got to pick, right? Walk on the left side of the road, you're safe. Walk on the right side of the road, you're safe. If you walk in the middle, Mr. Miyagi says, squish like grape. So we don't want to be squished like grapes. We got to find a balance, right? I acknowledge, and I hope you all acknowledge, what that balance looks like for any given person is going to be different from you than your friend or your classmate, right? So you have to figure out what your own balance is. You have to figure out what that looks like. So here's my general advice, some benchmarks you might think through in terms of thinking what your own balance might look like. So first, I think you ought to try to do this in each semester, right? I think in terms of, I think in sports terms too much, but you run a marathon. If you sprint, you're going to burn out. And law school is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? So don't burn yourself out in the fall of your 2L year because you're all excited. So figure out what that balance looks like. Also try to balance what your curriculum looks like over time. You may be like me. All you ever wanted to do is environmental law, and you just want to take every environmental law class. But if you take them all in one semester and there's none left, that's sort of sad, right? So take a little bit each semester. Okay, so balance each semester and over time if you can. Here's what my advice would be. Pick both what you need. So think about bar courses, and I'll show you what's on the bar in a minute, as well as courses you just need to be a good lawyer, right? So you all got to hang out with me in the fall, or more accurately, I got to hang out with you, and you heard me say several times, you all will take evidence and biz orgs. And you will. Everyone in this room will take evidence and biz orgs because you need it to be a good lawyer. I will tell you, I hated my biz orgs class. It was awful. It was like going to the doctor every week. But guess what happens if you go to the doctor? You stay alive, right? So, maybe biz orgs is your thing, and you feel that way about evidence. I actually like my evidence class, right? But maybe you feel the other way. Same thing. Like, you just need it. It's too much to learn for the bar. It's too hard. And, frankly, you want, depending on what area of law you might be in, all my environmental law students come and ask me, I want to be an environmental lawyer. What other classes should I take? The first class I always tell them is biz orgs. Because it doesn't matter whether you're representing a business, you're going to be suing a business, there's going to be a business involved, you're going to do litigation. Maybe you need to understand business structures, right? You got to do biz orgs evidence. So everyone's going to take that. We'll talk about what other things are. You don't want to take like all of these courses, right? That'd be like doing 1L year over. And you certainly don't want to do them all in one semester. But again, every semester, try to put in at least 1 or 2 courses that are going to get you toward that mark on the bar, that are going to get you ready to speak the language of being a lawyer when you practice. Okay, secondly, I would say also try to find things that are in an area where you want to practice. You may know you want to do family law, or you may know you want to do healthcare policy, or you may know, that you want to do immigration law. So take that stuff, right? And then finally, I would say if you can, and maybe this overlaps with the second one, just take something that's fun. Most of you all, this is your last chance to be in a formalized academic setting. The law is fascinating, right? It's intellectually exciting. It's a rich area to get your graduate degree in. Enjoy it. Medieval English law with Lund sounds fun. Take it. or you cannot. You know, I mean, like, you know, feminist legal theory sounds great with Kessler. Take it, right? Like, whatever there is that sounds cool to you, you know, debating gun policy, which is like sort of about the Second Amendment, but sort of about how do we have hard conversations in society. Take it, right? Like, whatever it is that sounds cool, take something. Okay, I think, again, try to mix it up at least every year, and if you can, every semester. Core courses, skills-based courses, special programs, clinics, competitions, law review, your career interests, and acknowledge that those career interests may evolve, right? They may shift over time. They may change over time. And then, you know, again, enrichment courses, sort of what sounds fun, what sounds interesting, what will help you to think more critically or broadly about the law. Is there a professor you've already had that you just loved? Take them again. Why not? I mean, it falls into kind of your, you know, third category. Pick something that's fun, but it's a totally legitimate thing to do. You really connected with a professor. You thought you were learning and growing from them. That's part of why you're here. Okay. So here are some core courses that I think you want to think through, and you'll see this list overlaps heavily with what's on the bar. Okay, so administrative law. Yesterday I was in Washington, D.C. with Professor Reinhardt and a bunch of our alums. We got to go to the Supreme Court, and we had a number of our alums sworn into the Supreme Court. Afterwards, Justice Ginsburg came and hung out with our small group of like 20 or 25 people for about 10 minutes. It's pretty cool. Somebody asked her, what's the case that you see most often in the Supreme Court? She said, not con law, statutory interpretation. She said con law like 1 out of every 7 or 8 cases, statutory interpretation a vast majority of the rest. So you can get those skills either in administrative law or in statutory interpretation. Justice Pierce from the Utah Supreme Court teaches this course for us. Professor Skabeen will be teaching administrative law in the spring. Those courses core to how law makes society. Remember that thing I did like the very first week of law school, and I brought in all the books and I made stacks and you have no idea why I did it? I did it so you take one of these courses, because that's how law gets made today. So you need to get those skills. This is also not you all, but the class that's going to come in the fall. That's going to be a requirement that they do one of the two to graduate. Okay, biz orgs, I already made the speech. Commercial law is a really hard course, also on the bar. Criminal procedure, we're offering that twice this year. Professor Toxin is teaching it in the fall. Professor Cassell is teaching it in the spring. Family law is a good basic course. Professor Kessler will be teaching that. Federal income tax is a good basic course. That's taught by Professor Kim. And trust and estates will also be taught in the fall only this year, and that is by Professor McLaughlin. In your 3L year, I think you should expect it to be taught both semesters. Evidence will be taught both in the fall and the spring by Professor Heine. Okay, so as you see, bar exam topics, what's on it? Biz orgs, Civ Pro, you already took that. Conflict of laws, con law, oh, you're doing that right now and you're going to finish it off in your 2L year. Contracts and sales, some of that's in contracts, some of that's in commercial law. Criminal law, criminal procedure, right? Evidence, oh, we're all going to take that. Family law, I mean, like I keep saying we're all going to take evidence because we're all going to take evidence. Also, remember all the rules we learned in Civ Pro together last fall? Evidence has more, and it's on the bar. Would you like to learn some of them now or all by your loan? Getting ready for the bar. I think the former, right? Okay. Property, ooh, you already did that. Secure transactions, that's a lot of what commercial law is, Article 9. Torts, we already did that. Wills, trusts, and decedent estates, that's trust and estates. So you see my list, bar list, pretty closely aligned. Okay, we also have experiential courses, as I mentioned. We have a longer list in the student handbook you can look at. Lawyering skills, so this is basically negotiating, interviewing, counseling clients. Pretrial practice, Professor Dreyer teaches that. Trial advocacy, that's taught by Judge McKelvey. Appellate practice, taught by Professor Boer. And we're doing a thing that's new this year. So this year, appellate practice is going to be combined with our trainer moot court competition. So if you want to be in that competition, You have to take appellate practice. This is the revolutionary idea. If we're going to have you write an appellate brief and make an appellate argument, we're going to teach you how to do it. Okay, but that's the competition that leads into our national moot court team. And the winners of that always, or the finalists always argue before our jurist in residence that we select different judges to come, distinguished judges each year. You all, I don't think will have to do what we did a few years ago where the panel was Judge Matheson, Chief Justice Durham from the Utah Supreme Court, and Chief Justice Roberts. That Roberts from the U.S. Supreme Court. That was, I was sitting in the room, I was a little bit nervous for the students. Okay, so that's a great thing to do. I would really think about appellate practice in the fall. Business planning is a class that has experiential learning in it. I don't think we'll be offering that this next year. Estate planning does as well. Arbitration and mediation will be offering that. Global perspectives on counterterrorism, that's Professor Gior's course. This does a simulation on counterterrorism. Environmental practice, if you're interested in environmental law, is a good course. Conflict resolution, taught by one of our very good adjuncts. We're not going to have initial public offering this year. IP licensing, we ran it this year, so Professor Contreras is rotating into something else, but it should be offered in your third year. The Family Law Practice Lab will be taught by Lori Nelson, who's one of our adjuncts, and taught or practiced family law for years. It's a good class to take along with family law. You'll learn how to do some of the actual work in terms of practicing family law, drafting documents, that sort of thing. The Immigration Skills Lab currently is scheduled for the summer. It's pretty low on enrollment, so if it gets canceled, we'll move it into the fall or the spring. So Judge Pede and I are watching that right now. Tax practice, that's with Professor Hinckley, and then we've got a bunch of drafting courses, real estate drafting courses, contract drafting courses. Professor Hill is doing a really cool new thing this coming year on legal drafting, which is a new course that's going to do 3 different types of things you draft. So a contract, a piece of legislation, and I'm blanking on the third. But you can ask him, he'll tell you all about it. It's a really cool idea he came up with. Okay, special programs and courses we noted already. Trainer moot court, that's going to be with appellate practice. Law review, we've talked about that. If you have any inkling that you might want to be a judicial clerk, you need to go out for law review and you need to do it seriously. That's all I'm going to say about that. You all are adults, you heard me say it. There are other competition teams you can do. Most of these are is 3 Ls. Some of them will allow 2 Ls on. So we usually have a negotiation team, we have a mediation team, there's an international law court. PACE, we've almost always had 3 Ls on that. That's the national environmental one. The energy competition is sort of a warm-up for PACE, and so we usually have 2 Ls on this. Law Meet is our business competition. The founders of it took a hiatus this year, so the organizers at USC, we're waiting to see whether it will come back. If they do, we'll bring it back. If they don't, we won't, because it's theirs, not ours. Trial advocacy is a good one. IP moot court, Dave Johnson, one of our adjuncts, involved in that, as is Dean Reinhart. And then bankruptcy, we did have a team compete this year, but they did take a year off 2 years ago, but this one probably will be there. Okay, I'll also just note we have certificates. So in addition to your JD, you can earn a certificate. And you can earn more than one certificate if you'd like. There's no need to earn a certificate. They're there if you would like them. The certificates in part were my idea. I like them. But I also like dark chocolate ice cream, and not everybody does. So we have certificates in environmental law, criminal law, litigation dispute resolution, public interest law, intellectual property law, international law, am I forgetting one? Business law. So you can earn any of those certificates. You can earn more than one if you want. If you are in a place in the class where that might be an extra marker on your resume that would help you get looked at for a job, that's something to consider. If it's something that you're like me and you're going to take every environmental law class anyway, so you're just going to earn it, you might as well earn it, right? Some of these overlap to some degree, and you can count classes if they're listed in both places for both certificates. But I would advise against designing your entire curriculum around trying to get as many certificates as you can. One, maybe two sort of works. The hard thing also is that for most of the certificates, you have to have a seminar paper in that topic, which may mean to get more than one certificate, you may need to write more than one seminar paper. Yeah? For most of them, no. For the public interest certificate, there is a requirement of a minimum number of hours spent in PBI. Yeah? Yeah, you can overlap anything that counts toward a certificate towards your graduation requirements. So if you want, the environmental law certificate and you write a seminar paper on environmental law, that will count as your seminar paper for graduation and it will count for your seminar paper for the certificate. Was that the question? Oh yeah. So if you do 2 seminars, can one of the seminar papers count as one of your 3 portfolio papers? Yes. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So certificates I just mentioned: business law, criminal law, environmental law, intellectual property, international law, litigation dispute resolution, public interest law. There you go. A few minutes on advice for clerks. So I already said it, I'll say it one more time. If you're going to be a judicial clerk, go out for law review and take it seriously. Judges also will look pretty carefully, typically, at what sort of courses you've taken. If you want to be a judicial clerk, you probably don't want to take a cakewalk list of courses. So, the courses judges are often looking for: administrative law, biz orgs, criminal procedure, federal courts, taught by Professor Haley, evidence, maybe a judicial internship. I can say a few things about that. So, judicial internship is a great way, if you don't know whether you want to clerk, to sort of try it out, because you're sort of like a baby clerk for a semester, right? You're working with a clerk, and you get to see some of the work they do. The other thing is that sometimes these will lead to jobs. So we have one student who interned for one of the justices on the Utah Supreme Court last summer and got a job offer out of that internship for a clerkship. I've seen other students do that in other states. And some of our local bench, particularly the federal district court, hires heavily out of their internship pool. So if you really want to, intern for Judge Newfer, for instance, or Judge Benson, go intern with them, because they're not going to hire you unless you do. But not all judges are like that. So that's something to think about. Connect with faculty members. You want to think through what your clerkship application is going to look like. So it's going to be a writing sample, a resume, a cover letter, and then 3 letters of recommendation. Larry Tribe, who you all have probably never heard of, he's like the old Chemerinsky. That helps. He's famous for writing letters of recommendation that say things like, I'm writing on behalf of Sally Jones, who was a student in my con law class. The con law class had 100 students. Sally got an A-, period. Sincerely, Larry Tribe. That's not helpful, right? But, you get a letter from Professor Contreras who says, this student was in my class. They asked great questions. They would always come talk to me. They did a research project for me. They did amazing work. They were fast. They were thorough. It was excellent. Their writing is stellar and continuing to improve. That might get you through the door, right? So you want to make those connections. Think about your writing sample. And then the last thing I'll say about this is also don't send your stuff out by just sending it out. Come talk to one of the members of the clerkship committee. We will help you. We're here to help you. So me, Jones, Toxin, Heine, and then whoever's going to, somebody from PDO probably will have involved. Other professors also in the building can help you too. Okay, other things to consider: co and prerequisites. So the criminal clinic is the biggest one here. Most of our courses don't have prerequisites. The criminal clinic does have 3 prerequisites: evidence, trial advocacy, and legal profession. So if you want to do the criminal clinic in your 3L year, which is really cool, you get to go handle real live criminal cases, you got to do all 3 of those in your 2L year.
And Crim Pro.
Oh, and Crim Pro. Did I forget one? See, this is why Dean Dickey's here. and Crim Pro. So if there's 4, right? So you got to pack it in your 2L year if you want to do that clinic. Some classes have bar exam subject matter. We've talked about that already, so you want to get some of those done. Find teachers that match your pedagogical strengths. You've seen some of that. Different people approach different things different ways. Professor Lund and Professor Brown teach torts in very different ways. You may like one more than the other. Different people have different preferences. Don't overgeneralize. Don't just take everything. Don't take every bar course unless you want to be a general practitioner, which is then valid. Don't also overspecialize, right? Don't just take things all in one area. You may, discover you don't like it. You may get out into the world and have to shift gears. You need to be able to be a lawyer, not just, a tax lawyer or just an environmental lawyer. And then the last thing I'd say in terms of general considerations is remember why you came to law school, right? I know it seems like a long time ago, 30 years. It's like cat years, right? 7 years for every month or something. You all came here for a reason. And that may evolve over time. That's fine. It may not. But keep that in mind, right? Build your course schedule so that you can do what you came here to do. And if that dream is evolving and changing and shifting, that's fine. But pursue those dreams. That's what will make you a great law student, and it's what will make you a great lawyer. Okay, so my generic advice, this is going to sound a little bit repetitive, but I'm going to say it again because pedagogical studies show that repetition actually helps you remember something. Okay, so everyone should take evidence and biz orgs. Oh, have we said that? I would also take either administrative law or statutory interpretation, and then I'd take at least one of these and maybe more. And can I say one hard thing? I'm going to grit my teeth a little bit. I'm going to say one hard thing. The lower you are in the class rank coming out of your 1L year, probably the more of these you should take. The best predictor you have for bar passage is your 1L class rank, because that's where everyone's on the same playing field and everyone's getting, taking the same classes. So if you're toward the bottom of the class, and coming out of your 1L year, what you want to do is start figuring out how to fix that so you can succeed, because that's what we want you to do is succeed. Part of that is, over time, more than somebody who's in the top 20%, you might take a few more bar courses. Why? So you have a lot of that knowledge in your head when you get to take the bar prep class, so that you're reviewing and remembering and resynthesizing instead of learning, right? Utah's now on the UBE, or MBA, the sort of uniform bar exam. They didn't used to be. When I took the bar exam, it was a Utah-specific exam. I walked in with my typewriter that I had bought at Office Depot to be able to take my exams on the typewriter in law school. My dad's power extension cord, like the big orange one that was like 100 feet long. Some little of those like squishy ear things you put in to block out the noise, and my dad's earmuff things that you go to like the firing range, right? I think all the people who had never seen me, because there was a lot of Utah and BYU students, were like, who is this guy, and is this his 6th time taking the bar, right? I was ready. Studying for the bar, one of the topics on the Utah bar at the time was commercial paper. When I got to that day, I didn't know what commercial paper was. I had never heard those two words paired together. So I had to learn it. That was not fun. It wasn't that hard. It wasn't that fun. So, if this is going to be an issue for you, get ready now. Take stuff that will prep you for it, right? So you have some of that knowledge base. Okay. Again, like I said, take something you need, something that's in your area of interest, and something that's fun. Plan ahead, but be flexible. I went to my firm thinking I was going to do all environmental law. I left probably having done about 10% environmental law, and I mostly did energy and litigation, right? So your career may change, your interests may change. Part of that was by my choice. I didn't like the environmental law cases my firm had. I liked the energy cases. And again, remember why you came here, and that, learning's fun. It is. Okay, I'm going to blast through these last couple slides so we have some time for questions. There's a bunch of classes we typically offer multiple times a year. Administrative law only once this year, though. Biz orgs, that will be both semesters. Common Law 2, all 3 semesters, contract drafting. Because Professor Hill's shifting to legal drafting, this will only be one time this year. Criminal procedure, both semesters. Evidence, both semesters. Judicial process, all 3 semesters. Lawyering skills, all 3 semesters. Legal profession, both fall and spring. Trust and estates, I should have put an asterisk by that, only the fall this year. I'll also have an updated list I'll put on the student resources part of the website that lists this all out in one document so you can see it. So there's a bunch of things that we typically offer every year. You can see what the list is, and it continues. I'll update that and put it up on the website. There's some that are sort of every other year. So if you see one of these is a 2L and you want it, I advise you to take it, because the chances are it won't be there when you're a 3L. So for instance, oil and gas was not offered this year, so it will be in your 2L year. If you want that class, take it. And then there's some that are just sort of more irregular. Adoption law, I did read the survey I sent out. I'm looking at what you all say. A lot of you wanted adoption law. It's going to be on the schedule. So these are also sort of less common. Okay, one last thing before we go. Anybody know what this is? Yeah, this is Bowser, right? Okay. So my kids have got this game. I don't know if this is the right one or not. I don't know. Which one is this? Mario something. All right. So if you play these Mario games, you got to go fight this giant wizard who has this bad haircut. And it's pretty hard, right? And so I was playing a few months ago, and my daughter had never played before. So we sat down on the couch. We have a Wii. That's the thing, right? The Wii. So I give her the remote. She's playing with me. And mostly she's like running off the cliff and dying, and I'm playing the game. Okay. Part of that is because she's never done it before. There's a lot, right? And law school's a little bit like that. The summer is a little bit like this. So we have a bunch of summer courses we've offered. If you want to take them, that's fine. But here's my advice. It's a little bit paternalistic, but I'm also a Potter, so that's fine. Potter Latin, not like Ghost, Patrick Swayze, right? Summer semester, the courses are hard because they're like Common Law 2, for instance. Think about all the common law you've done this semester crammed into 3 weeks, right? Like you can do it, but it's intense. So just, don't sign up for 3 classes at once and think you're just going to sell through. Not a good idea. Or don't sign up for a 3-week class and plan to miss one of the weeks because you're going on vacation to Tahiti and you'll just catch up. Not going to happen. So if you're going to take summer classes, that's fine. Just do it strategically. Some people do it to reduce your credit load or other commitments that they know they're going to have, like the criminal clinic in their 3rd year. But again, the intensive courses are intense, and it may be better sometimes to do them during the school year. That's bad. I thought I deleted that. That's old. Okay, registration. Here's the last thing, and then I'll take questions. So the schedules should be out by noon on Monday on the law school website. You can look what they look like. I'll send out an email as well. I've got it mostly built. I'm tracking down a few loose ends this week, and the registrar is working on things. Registration will then open not this Friday, but the following Friday morning, but then it remains open and you can move stuff around. There are some classes that will fill up pretty quickly. So anything that has a kind of low enrollment, like the gun seminar with Jones this year sold out pretty quickly, like 30 seconds or 45 seconds or something. So there may be some of those that happen. It hasn't happened recently, but I have a feeling that it's possible legal profession with Richards, since he's on his farewell tour, may sell out this fall. So that's one to watch for as well. You'll use CIS to register. The registrar will get out detailed instructions. They're also online if you want to look at it. And we do have wait lists. So if there's something you really want, get on the wait list. It'll move you into it. Last few issues to note. I try to just be transparent. So anything that's got 5 students or less will probably be canceled. There may be some other classes that you have to have a higher number to get. So evidence right now is really on the ropes for the summer. It's possible that a couple courses could get added or changed later depending on how things shake out. I can't predict the future, and what I have learned after having done this for 5 years is that things change over time sometimes. Somebody becomes unavailable, something else happens. And then if there's something that's not on the schedule you really want, tell me, and we'll evaluate it. We didn't have insurance law for years and years, and then a bunch of students wanted it last year, so we taught it this year. So, I'm listening to you all. I want you all to have the law school experience that you want. And I'll just stop there. I think that's it. Questions? I know, I talked for a long time. I'm sorry. Yeah? I don't know. Dean Dickey doesn't know either. The registrar can tell you. I have no idea because I've never taken classes here. I've helped my wife register for some classes, but she was,
Email with instructions.
There you go. Watch for the email. Yep.
We'll take your money.
No, nothing bad will happen to you. And in fact, that's why, in part, we moved to block tuition, is so that students would make their decisions based on the curriculum that will work for them. We were seeing all kinds of students, picking classes. There's this 3-credit class I really wanted and would be perfect for my career, but I've got to pay by credit hour, and I don't want to pay for that extra credit, so I'll take, 2 credits of underwater basket weaving law and graduate. And we said, that's nuts. That's just crazy. So part of why we went to block tuition is so you have that room to go. I think it's up to 94 credits. You pay the same price. Yep, good question. Other questions? Yeah?
Was there motion for summary judgment? Out of one of those writings?
No, sadly no. Anything done in your 1L year does not count. But if you write something like that in pretrial practice as a 2L, then yes, it would count. But nice try. Yeah?
Do you have any advice about this?
I have seared in my own personal brain the day in which I took that exam, because in my law school, you didn't have to take the basic legal ethics class. You could take any class that had ethics in it. So what I took was like some Mickey Mouse 1-credit thing that met on like Wednesday nights for 5 weeks or something, and they served you pizza, and my tooth fell out, and I didn't learn hardly anything. And it's true. But the tooth falling out was because I took an elbow the day before to my mouth in a basketball game. So I still remember taking that test and like going and having studied for like a week, doing like the commercial outline book or whatever, and going in and being like, oh, I got this, and walking out and being like, I think I got one question right. So I would personally advise you to think about either doing it in the spring of your 2L year, so you've taken the class in the fall of your 2L year, or the fall of your 3L year, so you'll take the class in the spring of your 2L year, so that if you somehow don't pass, you've got at least one semester in which you can retake it and it's not interfering with your bar exam. So I don't think you have to, but I would think strongly about taking legal profession in your 2L year. Yeah.
Does Civ Pro 2 help you with what's on the bar exam?
Most of the stuff that will be on the bar exam was covered in Civ Pro 1. If you want to litigate, Civ Pro 2 is a good course, because it will help you with some of the topics we didn't get to or didn't get to explore as in depth. I'm not sure whether we're offering it next year or not. There was a lot of interest. I'm in talks with Judge Harris, who taught it this year, about whether he'd be up for doing it again next year. I'm trying to lean on him, but he's also quite capable of resisting my leaning because he's been doing it for a long time. So we'll see. Other questions? Yeah.
So some of the classes like
Yep.
do you advise taking
Yeah, I mean, so I think, you ready for this answer? It depends. There we go. We're done here. Just give them all the JD. They already got it down. Okay. It depends in part on you, like, what do you want to do with your life? What do you, like, you know, what are you trying to manage? If you're trying to get into the criminal clinic, you're gonna do some sort of more rigorous courses as a 2L to set that up, right? If you're going to be a general practitioner, you know, you've got some room to sort of figure things out. If you're somebody who says, you know, there's like 3 areas of law I might be interested in, but I don't know, I want to explore them, then like let's match that up, right? So, you know, so go meet with any of the professors, come meet with me. I'll help any of you figure out your course schedule, right? I'll walk you through it. Dean Dickey's great at doing that too. You know, so like just I think you have to tailor it to yourself. I wouldn't take. I think the 2 hardest are biz orgs and evidence. I wouldn't take them at the same time. I would take one semester and one another semester, whether it's the next semester or another year. But you might have a reason to, right? So it does depend a little bit. Other questions? Are they excused, Dean Dickey? All right, thanks everybody. Yeah, oh, thanks. Oh, if you didn't sign in, it's down here. Hey, thanks. You haven't seen me who haven't been here. I've been on airplanes and airports and yeah, but I'm here today. Yeah. Things are good? Yeah, things are good.
This was the essence of my platform. Seriously, think about what Thank you.
Hey, I saw your email. I'm just getting slammed. We will set up a meeting. We can meet next week. If you want to meet next week, yeah, so this is not as well articulated. It's fine. I may have a non-well articulated answer.
Okay. So I know things like you're saying is organized. Classes and suggestion. There's things you'd say, admin law and his work is the same semester.
I think other than those 2, I think you're probably okay. I mean, the credit hours that the classes are generally reflect pretty accurately what's entailed. So most courses aren't 4 semesters. Trial ad is. Most are 3. So,
Spin this around.
I mean, what I wouldn't do, I'm going to grab this, if that's all right. What I wouldn't do is take like tax and biz orgs and admin law and all that, and like some other really special class that's going on, right? Like mix it up, right? So also keep in mind your seminar paper, class sessions aren't killer.
Not because I don't want to, I wanted to. I didn't take it, and so was Angelica.
Okay.
Summer gig.
Okay. All right. Let me talk to Judge.
some issues, like,
Not that I have feelings, but.
because it's really useful, and if you happen to be a member and you can't get a
Um, oh, sure. I told him, you all, I'll do whatever you want.
That's what he
And then
said.
I talked to him, and he's like, I'm running out of bandwidth. Copy Emily that one. Okay. Well, I mean,